Hello and welcome to My Son Different. So, when I was growing up, I don't know if you watched the last mukbang, but you might want to watch it. And I talked about how we used to cook a lot. And we used to talk a lot whenever we were cleaning beans. And I feel like in every household, you have the same type of situation where the senoras and the little girls, and they sit there around the table and they clean beans and they talk about things. And it reminds me of my show because I clean beans behind the scenes. Like, y'all don't see me cleaning the beans unless I'm teaching y'all how to clean them. But I guess to make a long story short, story time. Okay, so we've been talking a lot about my friends, and like I regularly am getting, what I guess you would consider hate from them. And I'm speaking from an objective perspective because, like, I know what it looks like. I mean, I'm sure it's raising concern. That's why I even talk about it. But it's my real life, and I don't want to water it down, and I don't want to sugarcoat it. It's just raw and in the public face because that's where it happens. And I guess if you don't know the backstory, some of my exes have popped up recently, and I don't know if it's because they see me and want to steal my light, or they see me and just want to show up and show their face again. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about, because let somebody else take your dialogue and they'll spin the narrative into something that it's not. And even though the relationships don't last, I feel like in some ways, maybe there were feelings involved that might have been more on one side than the other, or might have not have at all, been possessed by either party. And clearly, I feel like in the actions taken, I feel like there's a lack of empathy. And because of that, I feel like, those bridges have been burned. If the ties were severed and the relationship was over, I feel like this overreaching and overstep that the bridges have now been burned. And I know a lot of you guys probably are thinking, she's, how do you say, exaggerating? Or, a lot of girls, a lot of guys, you saw Wes Watson, you want to talk about psycho exes that come back and pop in. And we don't know the case situation. All we know is Wes Watson is a deadly uncle. But we don't know the situation. I lost a friend. May he rest in peace. To a woman attacking him during a dispute about getting back together. So I would like and urge you guys, I know Wes Watson was my childhood friend, but urge you guys to take into consideration that there is more than one side to the story, and that, in fact, in my community was underserved, underprivileged, undervalued. Still is. We have a lot of work to continue, and I'm very dedicated to that work. It was a passion of mine to begin with, but like I said, there's always two sides to a story, and some people find it easier just to look the other way, or call things out based on what they feel like isn't cool right now, or what they feel like needs to be said because that's what's cool right now. And I don't do what I'm doing solely for the purpose of entertaining people based on my my life story. I feel like you could learn from things that happen in my life, and the stories need to be told. I feel like for a lot of us that haven't or don't experience these things do occur. These are real life situations. And like I said, you get 3 different cases, 3 different outcomes. And I'll be damned if I lose another friend because some OnlyFans model, you know, that's what we want to call them. They're really prostitutes. Set them up. You know, that's the real harsh realities that we live in now. They're on the no-flight list for a reason. And like I said, for people to just do whatever compels them and to try to navigate our ship, you know, I'm not rocking with you. I live my life. I have to live my life. Like I said, I buried my homie, Wes Watson. Thank God he's still around, because I know what they're capable of, like I said. And, you know, it's not like I can sit here and say these dudes are OnlyFans ran-throughs. But because they're known in the streaming community, as was, you know, like I said, you have 3 different cases, 3 different outcomes. But I don't want my story to end. That's why I like to talk about things, you know, because everybody is different. We all live different paths, and we all live different lives. You know, your path is not your life. If you're just an NPC living your life, honey, find that road that leads you to success. That's your path. That's your true path. And a lot of people don't get red pill. They don't get the philosophy. They don't understand the movement. But it's real. And I'm living proof. So, I mean, you could take it with a grain of salt, whatever's going on in my life. And, you know, I doubt it will affect you personally. I think I've lost a rock in here. This one. I don't want this one. Looks like a worm was in there. Burrowed in there. And, you know, you get a lot of throwbacks in your life. But, you know, I'd say why I come here is because, you know, I feel like there's a W. You know? There's a W coming my way, and I don't want to miss out on life, you know, because, you know, something that should have been discarded lingers, you know. So, I guess, you know, for all of you watching, and, you know, and I know it's easy to be hating, because more than likely, if this ever came out, I feel like the way you look at me would change. And we've been through so much together. We're still going through it. And like I said, this has been happening behind the scenes, and I wanted to bring it to the forefront of our conversations. And mostly because I do find that there is somebody out there for me, and I do find somebody out there that, you know, I could say, I'd rather them know firsthand that, you know, I don't be entertaining other dudes. Like, I don't be outside. These dudes are looking for me, watching for me, watching out for me. But I'm not watching out for them. I'm not looking out for them. And I think, you know, that should be clear in a relationship. especially when you get people that do have clout, do have money, you know, they do have influence on the public. They could just switch up and start talking out their neck sideways, and they would entirely dismiss me. But if I'm theirs, their possession, their territory, that's what it's going to be. I'm going to be, you know, their dame. And I feel like it would be all cap if it was actually a real fight, right? And yeah, I don't want boys fighting over me. I'm 46 years old. We don't need street violence, or, you know, we don't need to cause more ruckus out there than need be. And I haven't called the police. I haven't done anything crazy yet, but, you know, I do things based on case-by-case situation. And, you know, if it involves some type of heightened thing, then I guess, you know, that's the route I take. But other than that, you know, if it just involves me and him, then that's, you know, that's what, you know, the task, you know, at hand is. So, I mean, like I said, everybody's situation's different, and every person you have to deal with in life is different. We all need to be aware of these things and, you know, understand what it looks like, understand what other people around you have to go through because of it. And don't let people suffer when, you know, you're going through something and you don't want to open up about it. You know, you have people looking out for you. You know, I care about you. I care about your safety and well-being. And, you know, me being here, I feel like would make it very clear. Me being transparent, you know, in my own life, my own lifestyle, you know, I feel like that would be making it clear. And, you know, I think also making it clear for everybody involved, because I have standards. I also have boundaries. And that's the thing that with me, I feel like they pass the line there. You know, dismissing what I have currently going for me, or not caring, you know, not having sensitivity to my situation in life. You know, the fact that we're not together can kind of outline that. Yeah. And, but anyhow, I do think that this will all fall into place eventually. And I do think that it got out of hand already. So I'd rather you hear it from me anyway. But I mean, I doubt this will affect our work here, or my work in the community. And for the most part, you know, I feel like sharing my story means, you know, just one more moment with you guys. I feel like, you know, you live your life and you have these experiences, and you're not weird. You're not weird for having your experiences in life. And I think that you're not weird because you're just a human being, like everyone else. So, you know, everybody's gonna have a different life, a different experience in life. And that's what makes us normal. That's what makes us human. You know? And I think that because you know, I'm able to share these experiences with you that, you know, I can tell you based on how you react, how you respond to these experiences. You know, you can quickly switch up and turn the tables on these people, you know, that have anything to say about the path that you walk. Because I feel like only you should be the one to direct that path. And anybody infringing on your right to travel and sail through your life, you know, they should be clocked. They should be penalized. I feel like your freedom was overstepped. Like I said, I'm not sugarcoating anything or watering anything down. I'm telling you, you know, just based on the factual information that I can provide to give you a clear picture and understanding of what is going on. You know, I understand that domestic violence is a real thing, but at the same point in time, we're not there. But there are violations. And in some cases, you know, one story is not enough. One situation, you know, and you get one point of view, you know, and there's different angles to it. There's different talking points to it. There's different aspects to it to begin with. You know, especially when you get a case that shouldn't have happened. And I feel like all three of these situations that I brought to your attention today shouldn't have happened. Yeah. But you can see immediately 3 different scenarios. And are they the best outcome? No, all of us, you know, suffered a loss. So, I just wanted you guys to, you know, be aware of what's going on. And I'll talk to you guys later about it too. So, I cleaned the beans already. And so far I put in this onion, this minced garlic, crushed red pepper, and this black and white peppercorn. I mean, this is the basic stuff. Just basic stuff. But, you know, I think what I put in my pot of beans, I'm not even sure yet. I'm not even, you know, what do I want? I'm not sure yet. But one thing I do know, you know, is immediately what's needed in my pot of beans, you know? Just basic stuff. And just like with life, I think there's some basic stuff that you need. Safety, sense of security, you know, peace of mind. And that goes for everybody. Everybody's worthy of love. And those things, if you don't respect those things, you have no business, you know, reaching out a hand and touching somebody, accessing them. You know, I think you're doing extra at that point. So, it's a Red Pill channel. You know how we love protein. So I have that patty mix that I haven't used up. And I think I'm just gonna throw this in here. Because why waste it? So I'm just gonna make like meatballs. And So what I was saying about, you know, about it getting out of hand and becoming public, like, if it's not just me, if it's, you know, somebody else's feelings because they expected me to be sincere, you know, and not play in their face, not play with their heart, not, you know, touch them to torment them, you know. I'm not mean and spiteful. And I think by these people, these boys being around me, you know, I didn't invite them, but how would anybody know that? How would anybody know I'm not in their DMs? How would anybody know that I'm not chatting them up, you know, low key, you know, using their friends or, you know, other influencers or even random people's streams, you know. So, I mean, this is a new day and age, and we don't talk about modern dating and aspects of what social media can hit on, you know. And I put on my bets that I talk mostly about cybercrime than I do relationships from online dating, because I'm a traditional person, you know. I believe that modern things should lead us to something positive, successful, maybe even innovative, but definitely not tearing down our culture and traditions, not destroying our identity, our self-identity. And, you know, you get toxic influencers, like, you know, in the dating market, when people are not expecting this type of contrast, you know. But I mean, let's be honest, we're all human. We all need that basic thing, you know. You get earth, wind, fire, what they called the fifth element. I feel like love, you know, if you mix in social media, just like you do with crime or justice, you're gonna get, you know, a strikingly contrasting outcome. Although in some cases it might work, you know. You know, here's living proof of it trying to work out. But also here's living proof of what could be a possibility if you are perpetually online. So, I mean, what am I supposed to do? My business is digital. I founded the Digital Red Pill. You know, I met somebody that's online, right? But I'm not gonna sit here and play with you no more. You know, if somebody does thorough work and investigation and research and studies up on, you know, any given deceitful character, my exes, then, I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and run and hide my face. So that's where I stand. 10 toes down, firmly in the ground, baby. You know me. I share like a lot with you guys. And, you know, I'm not sitting here dogging people out and dragging them and making them feel horrid. But I'm also not going to stick up and stand up and be dismissed, you know, by and for the latter. And, you know, my reputation, my relationships, you know, if they were based on reputation, then that would be another subject. But like, no, my relationships they're based on being clear, sincere, sympathetic apathy, you know. Isn't that goals, right? And for somebody to come in, be in their ear, because why? Because social media. We're talking about something else, right? So that's why I'm saying what I'm saying, because it's not gonna just be me at the end of the day, you know. Maybe hurt, disappointed, maybe, how do you say, yeah. So, I mean, if you thought that I was going to show up with receipts on somebody, well, I already provided those. And, I'm not in the least bit curious of what they have to say, because I'm always on the defense anyway. And when you get somebody else involved, they're just trying to understand what's going on, I think that's when people are gonna realize, you know, I triggered something, which is a natural response and reaction, right? We're grown adults here. And if you're messing with somebody's relationship, then obviously, you know, you're not looking at a positive outcome. And so that was the patty, and I'm gonna add the bologna. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. And all I know is what I do, what I'll continue doing, and who I am, you know, because that's all I have to offer in a relationship is me, that part of me, that romantic part of me. And end game, that should be their everything, right? It should be perfect. It should be not tainted. And because this happened in the whole middle of anything going on, right? We want to talk about motion. If this happens in the middle of it, there's gonna be more to be hashed out or said, you know, because you've got other people to deal with, other people's feelings, and, you know, if they don't understand what's going on, they're gonna demand answers too. Now, I can't tell you, you know, if somebody's coming at you crazy, that they even have a point, right? Right? So it's a lot of serious but unseriousness and unserious people. So, I mean, this is the chorizo. That's soy chorizo. I have to use this up, so I'm just gonna kind of throw clumps of it in. This doesn't matter if it's clumpy or not. I just kind of prefer it clumpy. Because, I mean, some people, even when you make refried beans, they kind of grind it up anyway. And people always say that's the cost of being online. Your whole life is put out there. Your lifestyle, your brand. Even hell, even look at the Barbs or the Barty. I mean, the Beehive. I mean, there's even whole communities. I mean, we're one to talk, but we're nothing. We never had clout like that at the Red Pill. So, I mean, life is funny. And I guess, in all unseriousness, it's what you make of it. You know? Because you could respond, you could react, and you could also fail. These are the harsh realities when you're involved with another human being. It's just, you know, the way life is. Two different people, two different personalities. And I just want you guys to take away, if you take away anything from this show today, you know, the fact that I feel like being online and putting everything out there, my heart, my soul, my passion in life, it's like, do I expect a return? Yeah, I expect a return. I feel like apathy is not it. I feel like maybe, you know, respect and dignification. Because why? Because I'm just a human like you. I'm just living my life. So going forward, I hope that you thoroughly watch this video, because like I said, every situation is different. And I'm doing my best to keep it civil, you know, and righteous. And I'm doing my best, period. That's, you know, I'm just a girl at the end of the day. And, you know, I get what I can out of each situation in life, but, you know, like I said, I'm living my path. I can't live it for somebody else. I can't make positive changes in somebody else's life. I can't, you know, make impactful decisions on what others are doing in their life. So I just add more water at this point. As you can see, the beans are poofed up. The meat's cooking. And at this point, it just needs a good stir. So I'll just stir it every once in a while. And this could take like an hour. You have to be patient with it. I'm just gonna cover it back up. This is a really big pot of beans, and I'm not gonna waste it, and I want you guys to learn a good recipe. So I'm gonna put in tomato bouillon and this Julio seasoning. And I don't know, I feel like I should watch how much salt I have. But this has all the basic flavors. So, I mean, that's that. And I'll just break apart this little bouillon cube and give it a good mix. So that's it. I guess I told my story, said my piece. And at the end of the day, I think so long as you're able to tell your story, that's what really matters. You know, and be honest and upfront about everything when it's got something to do with somebody else. You know, you don't want to play with somebody's mind, heart, or soul. And I feel like we learn from this Wes Watson situation. We learn from what happened to my friend. We learn from what's going on in my life. You know, because we're in the public. But, you know, at the same point in time, you know, I feel like there's so much in your life that you can adjust and do and, you know, and enjoy too. And all of us have our own paths that we walk. And it's all about standing firm on your beliefs, on your belief systems, and learning and growing from your experiences, but also understanding at the end of the day, you're just human. You know, and anything that goes wrong in your life is not your fault. And it's up to you to decide from then on what goes. So with that said, I hope you enjoy this recipe and give it a thumbs up. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. My Sunday Frump. Bye-bye.